Hi, Deacon John Wilson here, Education Enrichment Director for West Angeles Church. Here to talk about some recent developments in the, I guess, controversial debate of whether young men should be allowed to compete against young ladies. This time in a track event, because in California, we had a trans runner win several events and was going to advance and still will advance. I'll explain in a minute to the state championship. And there was a lot of uproar in the state. You remember because this issue of trans athletes, I guess in this case they call them trans women, and I know there are people that say trans women are women, but two things can't be right at the same time. You can't be born a man and then say you're a woman. So two things right at the same. That's kind of a postmodernist kind of view. Maybe I'll say something about that here another time. But two things that are opposite cannot be right. So you have men basically competing against women, and Governor Newsom said over a month ago it's not fair, but he sat there and didn't do anything. We knew there were trans athletes in the state track championship, and in fact, one of them has won several events and is headed to the championship. The third place participant who's a woman, it's a young lady, and the second place one, young lady, will now go as number one and number two. I'll share the stories with you, and I think that that's fair. Now, the transgender runner can still run, but they might still get an award this year, but it will not take away from the females awards. It's the best that Newsom could do this late in the season, is my opinion. He waited so long. He really should not allow him to compete because in other states, check this out, you'll see that that's was dealt with before the track meets where there will be transgenders this year. Let's look at Michigan, for example. So here we can have here a article. Again, Ground News kind of pulled it all together. There have been 31 articles on this. Michigan House approves a ban on transgender girls in female K-12 sports. Let's look at this. On May 22nd, that was a week ago. Sorry, I said a month. Two bills were passed that would prohibit transgender girls. They call it transgender girls, you know. Anyway, I know there's this transgender females are females thing, but I just talked about how that can't be true. Transgender girls from joining the female sports teams, so they were going to prohibit them. They're prohibiting them. Republicans fully supported the bill, which defines sex by the original birth certificate. Okay? While all but one Democrat opposed them, reflecting a partisan divide. One Democrat went with them. The two bills permit transgender girls to participate in co-ed or boys sports divisions and allow students to take legal action against school districts that violate the policy. Wow. Now, compared that to how, well, let me finish up. Bill sponsor Jason Wolford stated the real victims are young women and girls, while opponents warned bills promote discrimination and erode civil rights. Remember, that's that thing the Supreme Court needs to rule on is what in 1972, what did they mean by sex, male or female? I think we'll determine that it meant at birth what they are. There was no concept of transgenderism at that time, just because there's some chemicals introduced. And these are not people who've had the surgery. They couldn't, because they had the surgery, they couldn't run. It really affects you physically the rest of your life. Since the Democrat-controlled Michigan Senate will block the measures, the bill's passage signals an ongoing contentious debate. But the point is that there is a lot of pressure to allow to not allow transgendered girls to compete. You'll see some other stories here. Michigan House okays bills barring biological male athletes from competing in sports. This one's a right-leaning thing, obviously. Here's one leaning to the left. Bill allows trans people to be kept out of bathrooms, locker rooms. etc. This kind of stuff really is crazy because, 80% of all, every poll, 80%, it's an 80-20 issue. Everybody seems to think men should not, or even trans women, whatever you want to call them, should not be competing against women. But it's an issue that's continually pushed, even despite it being one factor of many in the result of how the election came out November 5th. This is foolishness. It's craziness. And notice I didn't even get to criticizing it as a Christian man. I'm just saying it's unfair and it's crazy. I had a daughter that ran track. Shout out to Andrea. God bless you if you see this video. But I would have been so hot if she did that. Their video's out now. I was going to play them here. That shows how hot the other parents were and how obstinate the parent of the trans woman was. But I won't get there. So over here in California now, we got to take a look at this article here, right? California changes the rules. So Newsom did push CIF to change the rules. And there, if you read the article, I'll include a link to both of these articles in the description block below. And the CIF governing body clarified the new rules. A new division will not be created to separate transgender from cisgender. I hate this terminology. But athletes assigned female at birth will receive medals based on where they would have finished if the transgender not competed. You see, so the number 2 will become number 1 and go to the state finals. Number 2 was number 3 will go to number 2, go to state finals. And apparently they're allowing some other girls to compete who maybe were unfairly treated in earlier rounds. They're really going to open that up. You can read this over yourself. And there's A.B. Hernandez, is a 16-year-old transgender, but he's a junior in high school. Won titles in triple jump, long jump. And he was going to do the high jump too. He competed as a male last year and was very subpar. So you tell me he can jump over, and you tell he's taking shots. Come on now, and it doesn't change his bone density, his height, his body strength. None of that's changed. It's just when he made his jumps, there was a shock in the crowd. None of those girls could jump anywhere near like him. All right, I think I've said enough about that. I'll include those articles below, maybe some other stuff, but I'm glad what California has done this year. It shows you how things are changing. Newsom waited a while, but he came up with something. He could have done this a month ago. Because I'm sure that most Californians agree that you shouldn't have males competing against females. I think a lot of you are going to get upset because you don't think it's a male. Well, what is he? He was born as a male. He was born as a male. So she or he, or whatever he wants to be called, I think it was unclear in the article, A.B. Hernandez, should not be competing against women. And it's not fair. It's not right. And it's societally dangerous when we lose the distinction between men and women. God bless you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.